All right, well, we're rolling.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. This is our third podcast. I say ours because I could never do this without Alec, of course. You know, I've mentioned Alec before. And he's not on camera, though. Maybe you don't want to be. I don't know.
I'll get on camera here in a
But
second.
anyway, so this week I thought to myself, let's talk about whatever. So, now, whatever. Because I never know what I'm going to say until it comes time to say it. But it's interesting that now the studio is located on B.B. King, right?
Mhm.
Number 50, right?
Yeah.
50 South, correct?
50 South BB King.
Right, 50 South B.B. King, and it's on the third floor. Now, there's actually, on B.B. King, near the building, there's actually 3 parking spaces which were taken. So I pulled up behind one and I left my blinkers on. I hope they don't tow it, you know. But what's interesting is that I pulled into the parking garage across the street, and I think it's Horizon. Of course, I pulled in, and I couldn't even get out the exit. There was 2 cars blocking it, and they told me I couldn't park there. Okay, so now this is interesting because this is all over the country, of course. The cities, the infrastructure. Why? If people cannot go shopping unless they either pay for parking, put money in a meter, and then it runs out and then you get a ticket. Now, why would someone go into a town where they got to pay for parking? I'll give you a for instance. I'm not complaining, but I go get a haircut once in a while at Man's Cave. So there was no parking out front or by a meter, so I pulled it up into the lot. And I said, I'm going to be about an hour. They said, that'll be $15. Now I'm going to pay $30 for the haircut. I like to leave her a nice tip. So I calculated and I said to myself, okay, 30, 45. I always give her between $15 and $25. So the haircut's going to cost me $60. Okay. So now, I just call someone, tell them to come to my house, and I give them $50. I'm sure they'd come to my house and cut my hair. But the point is that, why? They discuss infrastructure all the time. First of all, why don't they make it convenient for people? In fact, I'm not going to mention the name of restaurants, but if you have a high-end restaurant in downtown Memphis, you need to have valet parking because, you know, else people aren't going to come out, you know. And that's that. I just wanted to mention that, you know, that $1 trillion they're supposed to spend for infrastructure, I think it's time to spend it. I mean, let's spend it because, you know, the money's there, right? Okay, especially electronic now. Just push a few buttons and you create money. You know? I'm going to mention, like I say, whatever I think about, or, you know, I'm going to mention South Africa. Now, I don't know much about South Africa. I think an actress is from Johannesburg, South Africa. Damn, I can't think of her name. But I will, it'll come to me. But my nephew Mark, he met her online. Her name is Aurelia. And make a long story short, they got married, and they have 2 beautiful children. And Mateo's 17, and Mia is 17, 13. I think Mia's Mia's about 14 years old. But I want to, the reason I brought it up is because I've met her mother and father, you know, mom and pop. You know, my nephew's flown to South Africa more than once, and Aurelia has cousin in Durban, which is actually beautiful. It's by the sea. And anyway, it's interesting how people are meeting online. And this is almost 20 years later they're together. In fact, they recently moved from New Jersey to Las Vegas. And I want to say hello to Roy in South Africa. I want to say to Roy's brothers, his name is not coming to me for some reason. Mark, you got to give me a list, okay? But hello to all of Aurelia's family in South Africa, okay? And that's that. And by the way, I might as well say hello to my relatives in Sardinia, Italy, and I have relatives in Milano. I have. I just lost a dear uncle of mine, which I love dearly. In fact, one time he came to the house when I was living in Italy, and he brought 500 olive trees.
He brought them?
Yeah. And my brother, my cousin Renzo, and me planted them. Then about 3-4 months later, he said, dig them up. And apparently he sold them. Another time, I'm going to bring him up again because he's an interesting individual. His name was Fausto Carrara. God rest his soul. And but one time, I took a ride with him, and he had a guy, he was building a road, and he had a guy on a bulldozer. And he had me, my two cousins, and we had flags. And we walked up to the top of the hill, and he didn't have an engineer or anything, or a surveyor. And my one cousin up the hill, I got the flag here, and then my uncle's moving us over, and then all of a sudden he says to the guy on the bulldozer, okay, that's it. I was going to make the road. Kind of interesting. Yeah, he was in the development business. He built a beautiful village, all white stucco with red tiled roofs in Sardinia. Anyway, my Uncle Fausto, God rest his soul. Okay, now what else can we talk about?
I looked it up. Is it Charlize Theron from South Africa?
Yes, she is from South Africa. I think she was Miss Africa or something in one of the pageants. Sharon Stone, I think, was Miss Pennsylvania. Well, that's how women become famous like that. But you know what? It's really strange how Miss America never becomes famous. Although I actually kissed a Miss America on the cheek. She came out of the limousine, Suzette Charles, when the other one was dethroned. There was one that was dethroned, and she ended up making movies, singing songs, you know. And she came out of a limousine or something. And then her chaperone pulled her away.
When was this?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what year.
But like 80s, 90s?
No, but 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It was kind of interesting, you know. This is when, kind of like when Atlantic City got started, something like that. You know, it's kind of interesting. Well, I want to say hello to my cousin Marco, who I love dearly. In fact, I used to drive his mother to the doctors when she was pregnant with him. And although I did it through proxy, I'm actually his godfather. I held him when he was baptized. So I like to think that I was his godfather. And he came to America many times, you know. But for some reason, our Italian family in Italy has never really moved to America. They do well there. You know, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. You know, we think that America's great. Let's not get into that. But the Italians live pretty good. The Italians, you know. I have relatives that are doctors, cardiologists. So the family's always done well there. Sardinia's different than Italy. You know, when I talk about Italy, I talk about Sardinia. I'm not into statues and steps and something that's 400 years old, or like people go on tour buses, you know, to go see, what's that called, where the volcano erupted?
Sicily?
Huh?
Oh, Pompeii?
Pompeii. I'm not interested in Pompeii. You know, I love... don't get me wrong, I lived in Perugia, my father's family. That's absolutely beautiful up there. It's the truffle capital of the world, Perugia, Italy.
Can you describe Sardinia a little bit?
Well, there's 1.6 million people there, okay? La Costa Smeralda, which means the Emerald Coast, it's a very, very wealthy area. It's also called Porto Cervo, which means port of a deer, because it's shaped like a deer, or the horns of a deer. In fact, I had a dear friend of mine's daughter who technically got married in America, but had her reception on the island of Capri. And the invitation was awesome. She sent the invitation that looked like an Italian passport. I couldn't make it. I had a little snag on my Italian passport, and I couldn't make it in time. But she ended up in Sardinia on her honeymoon. In fact, where she went to stay, Beyonce was there with her husband. In fact, I think they're seriously considering about buying a house in Sardinia. Her name is Letitia, my dear friend's daughter, Johnny's daughter. And I remember when she was in 11th grade, and my friend said to me, I got to give Letitia $1,500. She wants to go to Italy. So she got fascinated with it, you know. She now is married, of course, to a dear, dear guy. And but it was interesting that she had her reception on the island of Capri. And when she came back from her honeymoon in Sardinia, she mentioned to my friend, why would I not live in Sardinia? Why did I leave Sardinia? Well, when you're 8 years old, I don't think you can tell your parents where you want to go. You know, they decided to come to America, you know. In fact, on my way to America, I said, Dad, I said, Pop, I said, how long would it take for us to get to America? And he said, shut up and keep swimming, you know. No, we came over on actually a very, very, very elegant boat called La Saturnia, Saturn. Let's see, what can we talk about now?
The name of the ship was Saturn?
Saturnia means Saturn.
That's a cool name for a boat.
Yeah. I met one person in America. They came over on that same ship.
Really?
Yeah. Well, in those days, the trip was like 12 days. I remember stopping in France. We stopped in France. We left from Naples. And we stopped in, we were originally going to leave from Genoa, but things changed and we left from Naples. It worked out because we have relatives in Naples. And it was kind of interesting that when we docked in France, I was almost 9. And I remember it was a layover. Maybe they had to unload or passengers, et cetera, et cetera. But I remember looking up at this house, and there were like young people on this porch, and it was screened in. We were in France now, and they were like necking and dancing, and it was kind of neat. And I was like mesmerized. For hours, I watched them. Kind of interesting that, you know, it was like almost like a show, like a play, because I could see them clearly. Like, for some reason, it was close enough. And of course, when you're 9 years old, your eyes are really sharp. So it was kind of enjoyable, you know. It was kind of fun. And, of course, you know, we ended up in New York, you know. What else can we discuss?
Since I'm going to Florida, can you talk a little bit about your time in Fort Lauderdale?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Well, I parked cars at the Fontainebleau.
Is that
Miami
a club?
Beach on Collins Avenue. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what featherweights are or wingtip shoes, but it's horrible to run in wingtip shoes. I think at the time was quarters. You got a quarter. But they would tap two coins together, like as if they were giving you 50 cents, but one was a nickel. It was kind of interesting. And if you got $1, the guy at the door, he thought he was running a chain gang. He took the $1. I remember him with, like, his legs would be spread out and he'd have his hands behind his back. I swear. It was like he was running a chain gang.
So hold on. Who would collect the coins together?
The customer.
Oh, okay.
Like they were giving me more than...
Gotcha.
Yeah. One time his car pulled up And the woman released her seatbelt and her scarf wrapped around her neck, and it was getting tucked inside the roller of the seatbelt, right? She's leaning over like this, right? Her husband don't know what to do. I said, do you have a nail file? She went in her pocket, but she got a nail file, and I took the screw out. I took the cap off, that plastic cap, and I undid the scarf. There, I got a $3 tip. She was worth $3. That ain't too bad. That ain't too bad. Now, what did I do after that? Oh, around the same time, a place next door called the Eden Rock. Somebody took it over, of course, and they started to renovate it, fix it up, and I got a job there. I was tired of parking cars, so I got a job there opening doors with a coachman's outfit. I don't know if you know what a coachman's outfit, but a coachman's outfit has, you've got a big top hat with a feather in it, right? You got a long velvet burgundy coat, with and the shoes have spats on them, the white part, and you wear white gloves, and it was kind of interesting, and I used to open doors, and welcome to the Eden Rock when it first opened. In fact, the woman who was doing the decorating and organizing, her name was Miss London. I put her in one of my stories in Pro. She's in Pro, Miss London. I love the name. And one day she called me, and I had this other guy who was working with me too. Tall black fella. Nathaniel Jones, his name was. So she calls me to go in, and we're walking down the hallway, and I said, where are we going? She says, well, we're going to have a suit made for you, custom made to fit me, coachman's outfit. And I said, I liked her so much. I said, what's it going to cost? She said $900, right? And this was back in the day. And I said, Miss London, I said, I'm on a bum here. I said, I'm not going to do this for long. At the end of the day, I smell like a fish. It was too warm, And there was an architects convention that came into the Eden Rock. And the guy took my picture, and I said to him, I gave him an address, I told him to send a picture, and never did. But the interesting part is, I'm in a beauty shop in New Jersey. This is a year later, maybe, about a year and a half later. So I pick up either it's Time magazine or the New York magazine, right? I open the page, and I'll be a son of a bitch. Don't I see Nathaniel Jones, as big as life, on the whole page?
Wow.
It would have been me, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Why would she have a custom suit made for me, see?
Oh.
So when they put that in, they were advertising the Eden Rock, and it blew me away. I mean, I opened the cover, you know what I mean?
There he was.
Yeah, there he was, Nathaniel Jones. So, so one time these women pull up, and they've got like first shawls on and stuff. There's three women in the cab. One's in the front and two in the back. So of course I opened the door and I said, "Welcome to the Eden Rock," and she said, "Is this just a special cab?" I said, "No, we're doing this all the time." But in the meantime, the cab driver looks up at me. I got the door open, and the woman in the front's got putting change on the seat next to the cab driver. So the woman in the front seat turns around and says, Who didn't put in 35 cents? The cab driver looked at me and so we looked at each other, But it was an interesting part of life. I mean, I used to park the car for the mayor, when I used to park at the Fontainebleau. Spiffy guy, white shoes, real dapper. And I said to him, it was dead. Miami was dead at the time. And I said, I could see that, with all these hotels, Miami would be perfect for gambling, casinos. And he said, we have a referendum in front of the city council. Now, coincidentally, I'm staying with a friend, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I got this TV on, and there's a talk show. And they're discussing whether gambling is going to go to Miami Beach or Atlantic City. It's interesting. And Atlantic City won out. What a dope I was not to buy shares in resorts. I think the first year they grossed, resorts went into business for $40-50 million. I think the first year they grossed, $150 million. Each casino was making $1 million a day in Atlantic City. You got 30 million people within a tank full of gas.
Wow.
People standing in line at a quarter low bet blackjack table, hoping you go broke so they can go broke. It's interesting. One time I went there, and I parked the car across the street. So I didn't last very long because all the tables were $25 low bet. I think I might have had $250. I don't think I lasted 15 minutes. So I go back out, and it cost $8 to park. And I said, I give the guy the slip. He goes, he parked my car, he buried it somewhere in the parking lot. They're going to park a lot of cars. I said, now go get my car. Man, he had to move about 6, 7, 8 cars before he got to mine. The town was booming. But then again, it's the same old shit. All the money goes in the well. They didn't fix it up the way they were supposed to. Everybody's robbing. All the mayors went to jail, most of them. So then Atlantic City started going down the hill. They didn't treat people very nice. It was like everything is about gambling. There's some casinos, they got so many slot machines in there that, I remember years ago a friend of mine saying that the machines were 35% of the business. The table games did the rest. Then it went to 55 and 65 and 75. I think now it's 85%. 85% of a casino revenue is the machines.
Wow.
Well, that's why the old timers called them one-armed bandits. Now they're push-button bandits. It's an arcade for adults. There's no greater feeling, or there's no stronger feeling than hope. Hope you win. Take a shot and maybe somebody wins, hits a jackpot for $2,000. They pay their mortgage, they pay some bills. So now that $2,000, then 100 here, 100 there, 200 there. I know. So in fact, it would be an interesting thing to do, to interview. Everybody walks into a casino, they got that bounce in their step. Then they come out with their head bowed and mumbling to themselves.
Yeah.
So I thought about interviewing people after they come out. Or interviewing them before they go in and interview them after they come out. But it's a business. I'm going to get arrested.
Yeah.
I'd have to work out bail money. But Aldo told me, he said if I go to jail, he'd bail me out. So
nice.
I'm covered there. Yeah, that's good. So, but that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but I also thought about the technical parts of it. They'd have to sign something. I would say, well, how much did you lose? They lost $300. I said, but if I give you $150, would you talk to me, or can I film you? And, they got to sign a release. In the entertainment business, it's called a waiver. You go do something, you sign a waiver so you don't get paid again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Let's talk about the entertainment business a little bit. Interesting individual, the guy who played the Fonz, right, in Happy Days. I don't know if I cater to young orange or older audiences. I don't know. But I'm 71, so I'm going to talk about stuff that I've done in my life or I've read. And it was interesting that Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz, actually wrote a book. He had first gone to Hollywood, and the first part he got was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then he had a small spot on Happy Days. They got so many fan mails that they requested him to come on the show. So he was talking to his agent, and his agent said they offered you $7,000 per episode. And Henry Winkler said, okay. The agent hung up and said, no, wait. Called him back, and he said they went to 10. He's going, okay. He said, no, I'll call you back. Went to 12. Okay, 15. Okay. The agent got him $22,000 an episode off the bat. Okay? That's how powerful agents are. Now, in the end, he was actually making $72,000 per episode. Doesn't compare to Seinfeld, who made, I think, $1 million and change per episode, you know. But the point is that Henry Winkler, I kind of like him because he makes a comment about Hollywood. And once you make it, he said, they want to put I quote him, they want to put a straw between your shoulder blades and suck you dry, he said. And it's interesting that he's never really done a commercial. I did see him do one for reverse mortgages. But I'm convinced that if he did a commercial for reverse mortgages, he has an interest in it, or he's putting his money into it. Because I know that, I see how I jump from one thing to another. Danny Thomas was the advocate and for Maxwell House coffee. Good to the last drop. Now, apparently, besides him making a pay, they must have gave him an end, or stock options, etc., because that's how they did it. Because I know that when Lee Iacocca put together Chrysler, he brought Sinatra into the picture. And Sinatra said they advertised for nothing, but they give him stock options. You know, you end up with stock. And sometimes that stock is, you know, hey, it can go through the roof. You know, it's kind of interesting. But now, all right, let's discuss MGM. Everybody knows who MGM is. Even young people, the lion. I mean, is there a better logo than that? When that lion roars in between that, it's a monster. So, now, MGM came together because of Lowe's Theaters, who had a company called Metro. And the bottom line is, I think I remember the number of studios. I think it was, the number of movie theaters, 1,500. I think it was 1,500 movie theaters. Now, if you have 1,500 movie theaters, if you have a hardware store, you got to sell stuff, right? Okay, so now he's got all these movie theaters, and he needed movies. So now Mayer, who had started out with Nickelodeon and then ended up opening a theater, I think in Chicago, they brought him into the picture. He was the man that was hands-on, Mayer. Then there was another one, Serwin, and Goldfish. Serwin died, and Goldfish took the win, Goldwyn. That's how it became MGM. And it's interesting that 1 year, MGM made 26 movies because they created a factory. They used people and actors. And it's kind of interesting how clothes were made for them. They were given, if you had a part as a singer, they give you singing lessons. You have a part as a dancer, they give you dance lessons. There's actresses who maybe needed gowns made a certain way for them to look good. You know? So it was a factory. They fed you, they clothed you, and maybe they put you on contract for $175 a week. But when another studio wanted you because you started to, get a good reaction from the public, they could lease you out for $25,000 a week, but only pay you $175 a week. Oh. And a lot of those movies, the mansions, there was the moguls' houses who they could write off because they filmed in it. So if you want to learn anything about the beginning of serious movie making, the name of the book is All the Stars in Heaven. It's kind of interesting, And there's a lot of interesting things in there, too, about the suits. aren't creative. They're the money people. There's one, whether it was in that book or in another book, but a suit goes up on, say, stage 48, and he goes there and he's saying to the director, he says, we're over budget here. There's delays. You're not on time, et cetera, et cetera. And the suit says, why aren't you filming? And the director says, it's because you're here. So in other words, the suits, the money people are not creative, so they don't understand. What they understand is the bottom figure, the bottom line. But it's interesting how I think it was Paramount. Paramount was bought out by Gulf Oil. So in one company, I think they bought a studio, and it was Pepsi-Cola owned it, I think. So they went around. The first thing they did, they took out all the Coca-Cola machines. It's, And then, of course, the Japanese came into the picture and started buying studios because of the starlets. A lot of pretty young women, the fundamental things apply, right? That's the way it is. And, but it's interesting. The whole, if I remember correctly, I've been to Hollywood back in the day, and if I remember correctly, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think I remember seeing the word Miramax on a small strip mall, like a small studio, Miramax. Of course, that's history now. We know about that, and that nitwit. I can never understand that. I spent a lot of time in Vegas over the years, and I'm at the Wynn Hotel. I'm sitting at a piano bar, and I'm sitting on a couch. I forget what I was doing or whatever, getting a drink or waiting, whatever. And there's a girl sitting next to me, beautiful young woman. Now, she was it's not, what do you call them, a working girl, lady of the evening, et cetera, et cetera. But I know for a fact, by the way she was dressed, the jewelry, now I know this for a fact because her and I talked. And, it would have cost me between $3,000 and $5,000. I know her shoes cost $600. That's the way it is, And it's funny about that because as my hair got gray and I spent some time in Vegas, if a young woman walked towards me and smiled, I'd say, "Are you working?" I've never had a girl get upset or smack me in the face because I know. I'd say, "Are you working?" Come on, she's 24, 25 years old. I'm 50, 55 or whatever I am, and she gives me this big smile. I don't think so. Looking to go into my pockets, but Vegas is an interesting town. I lived in Laughlin, Nevada for a little while. I went to go visit my friend Moonbeam for a few days. And I ended up staying 3 months. I liked the town. 10 casinos along the Colorado River. And in fact, I even did a little tile work there because Don Laughlin, who actually it's named after him, he built a RV park for the snowbirds. A lot of I've met people who own motorhomes because they have children in Colorado, they have children in Pennsylvania, they have children in Arizona. So they pull into their driveway for 2 months, 3 months, and then their daughter's driveway in Colorado for another 2, 3 months. Why bother with a house? For what? So never see your kids again? Or fly and see them for 4 or 5 days. So they stay for a couple months without interrupting their children's family life because they live in a trailer. So it's in a motorhome, and it's kind of interesting. But I got to tell you this about Don Laughlin. Okay, here's what he said. He said that he started Laughlin, Nevada, with I think 8 motel rooms, I think 3 or 4 slot machines, a blackjack table, a crap table, and 2 working girls. That's... He had his face on the coin, the dollar coin. Years ago, you used to put coins in a slot machine. Yeah, you know how we had Eisenhower on the dollar?
Yeah.
Well, he had his face on the coin.
Like the casino's coin?
Yeah. It was called a Riverside.
Mm.
In fact, Sam Kinison died. Sam Kinison's a comedian, for people who don't know. You could look him up. He's a wacky guy, screamed a lot. But I know. And he died on his way to Laughlin, Nevada to perform at the Riverside because I was going to go see him that night. Because I had written something, a story called Rock Pig, and I wanted to talk to him about that. And he was married to a wonderful girl named Malika, who I met and had a drink with other friends. In fact, I always felt bad about that because she got hurt. She was in a car with him. And she was in Needles, California. And I was only 30 minutes away and never went to see her. I'll never forgive myself for that.
Did you know Sam Kinison?
I didn't know him personally. But I've seen him perform at the Comedy Store. I was always an invited guest at the Comedy Store. I don't know why. I just was. But Mitzi got mad at me one time at the Dunes because...
You were at the Dunes in Vegas with Mitzi
I lived
Shore?
there. I lived there for 3.5 months with my brother. We lived in a hotel.
What year-ish was this?
88.
Okay.
While they were building the Mirage.
Okay.
That's when I met Telly Savalas, had a cup of coffee with him, wonderful human being. And Missy and I got kind of friendly. In fact, one time she said, Aldo, what do you want? I said, I don't want anything, Mitzi. I don't want anything from anybody, I had a little hassle one time where we went out one night, me, the comedians. The comedians got into like having bodyguards, which was goofy. So we went to a club in Vegas, real classy joint called Botany's. And this kid Jack went, supposed to be a bodyguard, this other guy. So now I'm backstage, because of my friend Angel Salazar. And Jack comes up to me and he says, you don't belong back here. I said, what are you talking about? I'm an invited guest. What are you saying? He's going, you don't belong. And he got in my face. I don't know why. We were out the night before. He seemed okay. But I don't know why people react the way they did. I must have did something to him in another life. But after the 3rd time, he said, you don't belong here. And I was tired of saying I'm an invited guest. So I got in his ear and I said, when you come outside, I'm going to give you a crack. I'm going to wait for you outside. Then I'm going to give you a crack when I see you. So he started screaming and shouting like a madman. So I go back to my poker room. I open up the paper. I have a cup of coffee, And 2 security guards walk by. And they say, are you Aldo Ragnaci? I said, yes. They said, well, we're going to 86 your ass out of here. I played it by ear. I knew what was going on. So I got up. I walked with them, And I think I brought my coffee with me. Yeah. So we go into an office. And the guy says, you threatened so-and-so. Threatened. I threatened him, right? I told him I was going to give him a crack. I threatened him. So I said, oh, is that what he said? I said, oh. Now, no one heard what I said. Only he did. So I said, you know what? There was a security guard back there. Why don't you ask him what happened? They talked to the security guard, and the security guard said that other guy, Jack, who accused me of threatening him, was screaming like a madman and cursing. So now, that's pretty funny because I'll tell you what happened next was Angel, when I saw Angel the next day, he says, Mitzi wants to offer you Jack's job. She fired him. I said, a job? What does she want to pay? He said, $400 a week. Now, I said, $400, and what do I got to do? I got to report to her every day? I don't think so, Angel. I wasn't looking for a job. But if you think about this, I would have had my foot in the door with all the comedians. Chris Rock, Andrew Dice Clay, what's his name, that does that Family Feud. What was his name? I brought him up to you. Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey, and a ton of other actors. And, you know, but I never took the job. So she got upset with me one time. I was always comped for everything. Drinks, show, in L.A. at the Comedy Store, when I stayed at the Dunes. She got upset with me one time. Pauly Shore, when he first got started, which I thought he was pretty good at the Laugh Factory, but she gave him the whole night at the Dunes. One night, in other words, she always had 5 comedians up there. And then every Tuesday she would fly in with 5 different comedians. It was kind of interesting. But she apparently, you know, hits her son, so she puts a show together for just her son. Now remember, the 2 girls walking into the Dunes with these small gray sequin dresses. You could almost see the crack of their ass. That's how short they were. So Pauly Shore does a show with his bitches. That's what they were called. Pauly Shore and his bitches. So I'm sitting with Mitzi. We're in a booth, you know. We're watching the show. And the show didn't go very well. So I kind of like to interview people, you know. So now I'm at the exit. And the people are coming out, and I'm saying, what do you think? You know, this and that. The point is, he was raunchy. He was just getting started anyway. So the show didn't go over very well. Didn't get many laughs. So I said, Mitzi, I said, it's just the wrong crowd. They were an older crowd. They don't understand Pauly Shore and his bitches. You know, that was different. You know, they wanted to just laugh with comedy, you know. And Mitzi said, well, from now on, you have to pay. She got upset with me a little bit. But other than that, she was a dear woman. I don't know if she's, I think they've done specials. How do you say the word, recognizing her. She was married to Mort Shore. And apparently they had opened up a comedy club in L.A. and they had one in New York, a pretty famous joint. And apparently when they divorced, she decided to, you know, she would take the one in L.A. and he took the one in New York. But it's interesting. You know, comedy's interesting. Everybody likes to laugh. You know, I did it for a while. I mean, I never got paid for it, you know. But I've been around, Monk and Moonbeam. But them 2 are the guys, I used to want to build them as the Eminem gang. They were so funny, I can't explain. That's why I don't even watch comedy. Because I've been around people that are seriously, seriously funny. You know. But I'm heading into the entertainment business. You know, I want my, if I do have an audience, if I do get an audience and you guys like to, what I say, what I do, or how I think, but we're going to make movies. So I have a tape that was made in 94. And I got to do something with it. And someone asked me, what are you going to do with your life? And I say, until they throw dirt in my face, I'm going to make movies. You know.
What kind of tape is it?
It's I got it on a DVD now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the DVD.
But it's like something you shot? Like it's a film?
Yeah, we did it like a home thing.
Okay.
Then I set it up on the washing machine and we were cooking and eating. Probably could be edited and something could be done. You know, because I like to give Moonbeam a piece. Because he started it, him and Puggy. Puggy had the big camera, walk around with it, you know. And it was kind of funny. And Monk is in the kitchen mimicking singing with a wooden spoon. I mean, you know, Moonbeam's got me filmed on a rooftop hanging clothes. I mean,
were you guys just making it up as you went along? Or was there a script?
No, we were just filming. I was filming, he was filming. It was on top of a joint.
Okay.
It was on top of a joint. In fact, there's a guy in there, Italian Sam, I'll tell you about him. Getting back to South Africa, Garrett, Roy's brother, okay? In fact, Roy Actually, I don't know. I think he was in Texas, and he found out I was in Memphis, and he stopped by to see me. That was interesting. Yeah. In fact, he when I first met him, he was working on a cruise ship for a diamond company. Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I know he had to handle his visas and this and that, et cetera, et cetera. And that's it with South Africa. Getting back to Sardinia. Sardinia is just starting to be recognized. In fact, when I used to tell people about Sardinia, they would ask me if it was part of Italy. Of course, it's been part of Italy since 1868, to be exact. Now, Sardinia actually got exposure from the guy who buried the company Tyco for billions of dollars. I think they had a place in Sardinia. Anyway, I read where the shower curtain cost $6,000, and they had a birthday party for his wife. It cost $2 million, and it got a little sloppy. But then people started to know what Sardinia was because it was on the news, et cetera, et cetera. But other than that, it's not that well known. I think it was Elizabeth Taylor made a movie called Marriage on the Rocks, and part of it was in Sardinia. And then Roger Moore filmed a movie that was, he comes out of the water in a car that works as a submarine, and he pulls up on a Sardinian beach. What else? I think that movie called Winchester 22 was filmed in Sardinia because I had a friend who was an extra in that movie. But it's a beautiful Sardinia. Getting back to La Costa Smeralda, the Emerald Coast. And it's an interesting thing how I had read where, of course I've got books on Sardinia, I had read where the father who owned property would give his sons the land on the interior so they could farm it, and give his daughters and his son-in-law land by the water. Well, guess what? The land by the water is what ended up being the more lucrative piece of property. The farm, you had to farm. The land on the water you could sell for serious money. But I had read an article where I think it was the king of Saudi Arabia was overthrown by his brother. I think his name was Laga Khan, something like that. But he moved to Sardinia back in the day with millions, invested millions to create La Costa Smeralda. Serious, when you have to pay $1,500 a night for a hotel room, that's serious, But Sardinia is absolutely beautiful. But then there's another island, and coincidentally, Alec, when I told you I wasn't born in Sicily, I was born in Sardinia, and you picked that water spot,
yeah,
that's called La Conca, which means the conch. My favorite swimming spot. In fact, I have a lot of memories in that spot. There's a crack in the rocks, and the water comes in like a pool. And when I used to swim in there, it's like swimming in a fish tank. The fish are blue and yellow and all kinds of colors. And it's an interesting place because there's also a ledge that I've sat on and around the fire and watching falling stars with friends and singing songs. And me, I was missing Chambersburg and the hoods I hung with, instead of like enjoying what I was having. Sometimes in life you don't know that you're enjoying something until later on. Years go by, sometimes you say to yourself, man, I look back at that time and it's beautiful. I mean, on a boat with 15 other people, relatives and cousins and friends, going around the island, and they would just make a salad. Whatever we took off the rocks is what we ate. Sea urchins are delicious. A little wine, a little bread, my cousin used to say, a bottle of wine. It's a nice meal. And then there's these things against the rock. we call them patele. And you take a knife, you take them out, you squirt a little lemon on it, and you eat them like a clam. It's a monster. Eat raw shrimp, eel, catch eel. And the boat broke down, but we had to turn around. We had to get towed in. But it was an interesting boat. It's diesel and made of wood. A friend of my cousin's father owned the boat, and they gave it to us for the day. And that was a monster to go around that island. In fact, I've always thought about, I would need a motorhome, right, to travel through Sardinia. I would need a motorhome behind me with the crew for filming, right? They'd have to, 2 motorhomes would do it. Probably could be sold to Discovery Channel, or Netflix will buy anything.
Yeah.
Netflix will buy anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I always tell everybody? So you want to make movies? Okay. We got all these old warehouses. We have them in Trenton. We have them here in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay? You take a car. You drive it through garage doors. You crash through. When you crash through, there's somebody duct taped to a chair. There's a bag of powder, baggies and baggies. You got a suitcase filled with fake money. Right? Everybody's starting to scatter. Guys run up the steps, you shoot at them. You got those explosives going off, right?
Yeah.
Somebody gets thrown off the roof, you got a movie.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it is?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. And then you hear sirens. It's always good to hear sirens in a movie.
Yeah.
And you know what's awesome, too? A friend of mine, Ponteleon, I call him Pondy. His mother, his wife, call him Al. He never liked the name Ponteleone, but I've been trying to convince him what a beautiful name is. It means lion of the bridge. Ponte, it means bridge in Italian. Leone means lion. That's a beautiful fucking name. But you grew up in the Chambersburg and they're going to make fun of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I call him Pondy, and his wife calls him Al, and his mother calls him Al. I've known that family for years. Nunzi's nephew, I've always liked Nunzi. I've known him a long time. He always called me Ray, because the actor Aldo Ray. I don't even people know who Aldo Ray was. He was an actor. But I used to kid around and say he was my uncle. Instead of Ragnaci, they shortened the name to Ray, because it couldn't be pronounced in English, But what was I saying about Pondy? I've never met anybody in my life that has more hope in their heart than Ponteleone Ballardino. My God. He's got a beautiful, beautiful disposition. But you got to understand him. He's like the younger brother I never had. I like coincidences, okay? He was born in 1958, the year I came to America. I'm exactly 9 years older than him. In fact, other than my cousin Marco, who I held by proxy, and my brother Lorenzo was his godfather in America, 3,000 miles away, which didn't make any sense, Me and my sister Pina held him. But we proxied for my brother Lorenzo and his wife. So the craziest thing is, I've never been a godfather to any of the kids, but Pondy's kid, Vincent, his young one, who's now 9, So him and I palled around together for, oh my God. Gotta be 25 years probably. Yeah.
And what about him gave him such a hopeful disposition?
It's the way he is.
So, like, if something bad happened, he would be optimistic?
Well, not so much optimistic. Part of life. It's, he's just like that.
Yeah.
He's just like that. He could be down and out and this and that, but, he just bounces right back. He's one of them, he hits the ground running. He's like that. I'm not getting into like his life story or anything, but he's a dear friend of mine. And then there's the Cuban in L.A., Rogelio Barada. When I first met him, we were doing marble work in Vegas for a company called Catello. We're doing marble work at Caesars. Caesars was the only hotel that had marble. No other hotel had marble, just Caesars. Now they all do. And the only other places that had marble was federal buildings, post offices, et cetera, et cetera. But then it became feasible to, put marble in buildings. But Caesars used all Carrara, which is the only real marble. Everything else is a stone. Carrara is what the statue of David is carved out of, and the statue La Pietà is carved out of. Carrara marble from Carrara, Italy. And everything else is a stone that's polished. It's the only real marble. And when I met him, I was working for this company. We were in the in-house. It was interesting. We were tiling tubs that were set at Caesars, hexagon tubs. Rather than put tile in them there, we used to tile them a fiberglass tub, and then they would deliver them. So they gave them to me as a helper in the shop. And I asked him his name, and he said, in a real deep Cuban accent, Roger. I said, what's your real name? He said, Rogelio. Now, he's got a good story about Guantanamo. There's two Guantanamos. American Guantanamo and Cuba's Guantanamo. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And he told me that him and his cousin, his uncle's fishing boat, they got close to the Guantanamo on the American side, and his uncle knew the tides, and he said, jump in, you'll end up on shore. That's what he told me. And then he went to Vietnam, became a citizen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So how did he end up in L.A.? You said he was the Cuban in L.A.?
Yeah.
Because you said you were working... Cuban. Oh, I thought you were working with him in Vegas.
1978, 79. That's how long I know.
Oh, wow.
I know him 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, the reason... So now, one day, I used to either get dropped off or picked up because we're working in the shop. So one day, he said his girl, Laura, her name was. I don't remember these things, and sometimes I can't remember what happened 20 minutes ago. Her name was Laura, and she came to pick us up. So we're sitting on a corner of Tropicana and Polaris, exactly, where there was nothing built there. It was like on the outskirts. Now, of course, it's Las Vegas is a metropolis. It's like become like New York. And we're sitting there, and he's got this level, and he's cleaning the tools and all. I said, you like the trades, huh? He was learning to be a tile setter. And he said, no. He says, I like show business. He belongs to the Screens Actors Guild.
Really?
But he's having a hard time because, excuse the expression, but agents got the fucking business choked up. It's all about the fucking agents. Sometimes a lot of nobodies make money around someone that is somebody. So anyway, he's in L.A. In fact, he's been telling me lately that he set up a room, air conditioning, for me, etc. So whenever I want to go, which I will, As soon as I get done with this stuff I'm doing for my son Aldo, and me and Quinto are putting this together. So, but he introduced me to Angel Salazar, because Angel's Cuban and Puerto Rican, and I gave Angel a ride to L.A. from the dunes one day. And that's how we became friends. And then I stayed with him in L.A. for a while. In fact, Angel, nice guy. He gave me a studio. When he first moved to L.A., he had a studio that he ended up with all his props, And so he said, Aldo, I don't use it, but I got my props there. You want to use it, go ahead. In fact, when I left the studio, and I drove down the hill, that's exactly where that Hollywood sign is. Silver Lake.
Yeah, Silver Lake.
It's a cute... I walked into a bakery one time, smell espresso, all these baked goods. I thought I was in an Italian shop. They were Cuban.
Mm.
It was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Beautiful bakery,
Yeah.
you know. I had rented a car from a company called Federal Agency. And I remember there was a club nearby that I used to go to. I wasn't treated very nice. That car had this eagle sticker on there, and it said Federal Agency. The small print was rental and stuff. They must have thought I was a federal agent. It finally dawned on me that why I wasn't treated so nice. One time, I ended up hooking up with a company called, it was a car company, went out of business, Omni or something, I don't know. But he was doing tile work, but I was an estimator for him. And I remember going to go look at a job, and I was a little lost before GPSs. And I pulled up to, there was a couple guys on motorcycles parked talking. I pulled up and I asked them about directions. They were nervous wrecks. Here I pull, and it's a K car, looks like a government car. the Chrysler K cars, you know, It looks like a government car. But this, then it dawned on me, this big eagle, you know, it's funny. I kept the car for about 6 weeks. I don't know how I did that, but I did it. What was I going to do? You know, I needed a car. In fact, I'd go over a bump. I said, I'm in LA for a week and a half. So I go estimate a job. And it's about $9,000. The guy don't want to do it for $9,000. So I said, about $7,500 cash. He goes, you do tile work? I says, yeah. I have marble work, tile work, you know. Nice job. Got to mix a little cement and, you know, got to do a couple ceilings in the tub areas. So I called a Cuban. I said, I got this job to do. $7,500. You know, I could buy a car, get an apartment, you know. And I said, I'm going to send you money for a ticket. I need you to come in right away. I go to LAX to pick him up. It's all scheduled. He's not there.
Oh, no.
I was so pissed. I couldn't do it myself. I needed a helper.
Yeah.
You know? And they showed up like 2-3 days later. Then what do you think he does? Now, Angel's got all these props in the studio. He puts everything on the outside. Got rained on. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh, no? It happened. I watched him do it.
No, I was mourning the loss of the props. Was Angel pissed?
Oh, yeah, he was pissed. I never stayed there again.
Oh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Look, the place had a bathroom, a shower, a stove, and a couch that opened up into a bed. That's all you need.
Yeah.
You know, I was tinkering with the Laugh Factory, this place. I went on stage in Chinatown. I went on stage in Beverly Hills. I think they threw me out of it. No, the guy who managed, it was a bar in Beverly Hills, the Ramada Inn, but it was in Beverly Hills. Oh, he got upset. I was cussing a little bit.
What did he get upset about?
I was cursing a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah. But I remember, like, it was the strangest thing. There wasn't many people in the bar, maybe a dozen people. But there was 2 guys sitting at the bar from Australia. They thought I was hysterical. Laughter's catchy.
Yeah.
When I used to go into the comedy store at the Dunes, not 600 people aren't laughing. Maybe 50 are, 30, 40, 60. The others catch on. You know, the first comedian I ever met, his name was Ron Kenny. God knows where he's at. But I was playing Keno. And I'm sitting, we're talking, and all of a sudden we started to talk. He said, you know, what, this and that. And he says, "Oh, I work the comedy store. I'm in the comedy store." He said, "Do you want to see the show? I'll comp you." I said, "Yeah, I'll see it." Now, nice. I went to the box office. My name was written down, and I got in. I'm sitting right up front, and his shtick, right?
Yeah.
His shtick was, "I'm a real man. I smoke Marlboro, not lights," he said, Marlboro. "I drink beer. I piss on buildings." What the fuck? The things they come up with. And then he mentioned his, what did he say? Oh, he said, "My father was a cop." He says, "I was never his son. I was a suspect." That's funny.
Yeah, the piss on buildings got me.
It's like Steve Harvey coming on stage with a Kodak.
Yeah.
And then there's this kid Odenkirk, who's become a producer.
Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah. Wait, so now Basil, there's a kid named Harry Basil. He did comedy. He say, "Aldo, every time I play poker with you, you take my money." One time I was going to buy $100 worth of chips. He's involved with Tropicana now. There's a Tropicana comedy store in Vegas.
Okay.
I think he runs that, or he owns it, something like that. And I kind of hung out with these guys. I mean, they were making $3,500 a week. The more exposure you got, the kid who played Kid Dynamite with that show, what's his name?
I don't even know.
Was a show on TV. He used to always say Dynamite.
Dynamite.
Yeah. What the hell
was that?
was the name of the show? But he made $5,000 a week. If you had television exposure, she would pay $5,000.
Jimmy Walker. Good
Yes.
Times.
Exactly. Yeah. Jimmy Walker, nice guy. He made $5,000 for the week. Now I calculate it, right? I'm a bean counter. I can calculate fast. So you got 5 comedians, right? No, there's no real MC, but they bicker. Or why should I follow him? Or why doesn't he go after I go on? Or why doesn't he? They bicker. They got a buffet back there. They bicker. That's what Mr. Shore wanted me to do, to keep the peace, kind of, mellow stuff, And but they only did about 8 minutes. By time, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So they do 2 shows a night. Saturday, 3 shows. Right? 7 days a week. Okay? Now, you've got 7 times 2 is an hour and 40 minutes. Right? And plus another show. They do it 2 hours. 3 hours. That's all. Is it easy to go on stage? No.
Yeah.
No. That's why I think the entertainment business is so highly lucrative, or artist work is lucrative, because the artists of society are bums until they make it.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name that bought himself a $42 million jet? Jim Carrey. He slept in a car with his father. You ever hear of a guy named George Hamilton?
Mm-hmm.
He claims that they used to stay one step ahead of the sheriff growing up.
Yeah.
It's like a matter of I think, see, when people say they're talented, I think talent is something you can create. A guy throws I say this to Pondy all the time. A guy throws a ball at 90 miles an hour. He's built like I am. God didn't give him extra muscles on his right shoulder or his left shoulder if he's lefty. He was determined to throw that ball at 90 miles an hour because he could. I don't believe in that's talented and that talent. You create talent. It's an interesting thing how it's like if you love what you do, you can become successful at it. If you don't like what you do, you're not doing anybody a favor. So whatever you do, if you don't like doing it, let somebody else do that job. If you're a nurse and you don't like what you do, please go wait on tables, tend bar, become a bus driver. But a nurse has to have certain bed manners because you got people that are sick. When my mother was in the hospital, I say she's the only mother I got. I insist how well she should be taken care of. Because that's what you want to do, then you'll be good at it. We should do a whole episode on that. We should do a whole episode on it's a pleasure to serve. Okay? Now, I got that. I'd never take any credit that it doesn't belong to me. I got that from an article in Playboy magazine. And it had to do with butlers ran the house. Not the kitchen, not the butler was he if they had stables, he would make sure they were clean. If they had cars, he'd make sure they were ready. The butler ran the house. He made sure the dinner tables were set. And it had to do with generations of butlers. And how the wealthy, their reputation had a lot to do with the butlers because the butlers were the ones who took care of the house. They dressed them. They decorated the house. If the plumbing broke down, they would call somebody. So the butler was the key man. I worked at the Ritz on Park Avenue. Now, the Ritz is interesting. In fact, her name was Freed, Esther Freed. Oh, nice woman. Wow, wonderful woman. Wonderful woman. And but there was a butler's pantry. In other words, there was the entrance to the apartment, and then there's another door in the hallway to come into the butler pantry. Because at one time you couldn't cook. The kitchen was downstairs. So the food would be brought into the butler's pantry, and then the butler would serve it, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, Neil Diamond lived right above her. He's a serious New Yorker, Neil Diamond. And she was a very wealthy woman, Esther, because she sold some property around Princeton, New Jersey, and she said she lost $1 million. And she looks at me and she goes, well, $1 million isn't what it used to be. I go, yeah, you're right. So me and my old boss, Mario, I ended up hooking up with him again. He asked me to help him out over there. And we lived there. So I remember one time when I first started the job that I went downstairs and, guys with white gloves on opening doors and stuff. The guy goes to me, you can't, there's a, workers entry. I said, that's closed, number one. And number two, because he told me I wasn't supposed to go through the front. And I said, number two, I'm not going to starve to death, I'm staying here. He went, oh, he didn't know. You can't start work before 9:30. At 3 o'clock, you can't make any more noise, And she sold it while we were working on it. Because she came in with a couple. In fact, the guy reminded me of the little guy with the mustache in Monopoly.
Yeah.
And they came in with an architect. So they were still browsing around, and he looked at me and my old boss, Mario, and he said, don't bother doing anything else. They're going to dump $250,000 into it. Just like that. So she sold it. But she was very sweet, Esther. She'd show up with a bottle of wine. I'd kiss me on the cheek. Because I said to her one time, I said, when a man works with his hands, he's a laborer. When he works with his hands and his mind, he's a craftsman. But when he works with his hands, his mind, and his heart, he's an artist. Mm-hmm. I think the credit for that goes to St. Francis of Assisi, which was my father's paisan, because my father was from my neighborhood. And she said to me, she goes, I got to write that down. Mario, God rest his soul, loved him dearly, like a relative, like an older brother. So he said he was going to ask her for $50,000. I said, don't.
Was he gonna ask her for as payment for work or just for?
He was going to ask to borrow $50,000.
Okay.
Mario had a marble shop at the time. I said, don't. He goes, what do you mean? I said, don't ask her for $50,000. Ask her for $500,000 because you want to enlarge your marble shop. That's different. That's business. Never, ever, 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 ever ask anybody with money for money because they ain't giving nothing away. That's the worst thing you can do because now they think you're taking advantage of them. You know, I've had experiences like this where back in the day in Atlantic City, I happened to be at Harrah's and I'm at the Baccarat pit, the big room where they pass the shoe like in James Bond movies. And there was a guy there by the name of Tom Reed, I remember his name, betting $7,000 a hand. I think it was either $6,500 or $7,000. So one of the guys I was with said to him, you know, when you bet that, to us, you're like betting a car because you could buy a car in 1980 for $7,000. I said, why'd you say that? Now he knows you ain't got a quarter.
Yeah.
The guy took to me one time, it was at nighttime, and at one time they closed at like 4 in the morning on the weekdays and 6 in the weekend. I never could understand that. You're sending people out into a ghetto because you want to close down the casinos. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, I got friendly with Tom Reed, and he pointed out to me that not to pay for anything because he could work things out, which I did. When they thought I was his friend, they gave me a gold key. I could stay there, write comps, cash. And so my friend Richie, God rest his soul, said, I'm going to ask Tom for $500. He said, Richie, don't. One time we were playing Baccarat, the shoe had to be shuffled, and Tom didn't know anything about craps. He picked up $15,000 like it was water and walked over to the crap table because Richie was going to show him how to, work the crap game, in other words, because Richie knew about the crap game, but Richie got a little nervous with all the $1,500 chips and stuff. So he says, I'm not going to, Rich, don't ask him, Rich. He goes, yeah, I'm going to. I said, Rich, don't ask him. Sure enough. He asked me for $500. I was with him. And Tom looks at me and he says, I'm not going to lend anybody $500. He said, Aldo will cash a check for you. If I could have wrote him a check for $10,000, he'd have gave me the cash. But you don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why when Mitzi Shore said to me, what do you want? I don't want anything.
Yeah.
What do I want? I don't want anything from anybody. I'm not looking to con anybody or trying to, it's ridiculous.
But do you think she was asking what do you want, like, in life?
No.
Okay. Because I do think it's good to know what you want in life a little bit.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I know what I want.
Yeah, what do you want?
I need a jet.
Ah.
So I could get around.
Yeah.
Like you park your car like valet. I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, it cost $1.5 million just to maintain it and have a crew. I got it all figured out. The only way I could ever buy a jet is if I start making films.
Yeah.
Can't do it any other way. When you're my age, there is no someday.
Yeah.
Every day counts.
Yeah.
When you're your age, you could say, someday I'll do this or someday I'll do that. But you get to a point in life where there is no someday. That's it.
Yeah.
Because first of all, when you hit 70, you never know.
Yeah.
But in general, in life, you never know.
Yeah.
That's why people should be nice to each other because you never know when you're going to see them again.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. We have arguments with loved ones and something happens. You don't do that. That's why, I wonder sometimes. I mean, who's going to pay attention to what I say anyway? But I was in Vegas at the time, and I remember Bally's was going under. The stock went from like $28 to $2.50 in 4 months. So I walked through there one day. The rug was looked like a jester's rug. It was so stupid looking. It was major dizzy. And I'm looking around, and I said, no wonder they're doing so bad. Everybody's mopey-like, and there's no enthusiasm and all, And, I meet people. I've worked basically my whole life, and you meet people, and I go, what do you do? They go, I do IT, I do accounts, I do advising, or I do this, or I do investments. But what do you really do, right? So I thought of a public relations company called Be Nice, BNIZ. And you go to corporations, you go to companies, you teach people how to be nice. That's all about. I tell both my sons, business isn't about money. It's about people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see credit cards flying into the pizzeria or cash. People have to bring it in. What's business about? Business isn't about money. Business is about people.
Yeah.
You take Bezos, whatever his name is, he started Amazon. Well, I remember him being interviewed and telling them, "There's no cash, but you have no cash. You have no cash." He had a plan. He had.
Yeah.
He created an industry that's phenomenal. I mean, Aldo makes a phone call. He gets there in 2 days. I mean, he created a service industry that wasn't created before.
Yeah.
FedEx did it, but on a different level. FedEx did it more with FedEx was in shipping. Amazon is in selling and shipping. Basically, I almost outdid everybody. I don't think there's anything you can get faster than if you order it on Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. And what can't you order on Amazon?
Yeah.
You can order a purple gorilla. That's 480 pounds. Okay. So, again, I want to say thanks for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the... I'm going to turn this into a show. I can't just keep talking and telling stories. I don't know if I want to lose your interest. I'm going to lose your interest, but Alec is going to help me out, and we're going to end up turning it into a talk show. Now, getting back to A Pleasure to Serve, I had an idea that I would like to interview servers. It's really amazing how, of course, now it's server. Before it was waiters and waitresses. Now, of course, it's servers. Parent number one and parent number two. So that's, we live in a new era. So there's things I have to accept, and I really don't mind. You got to grow with times. So I'm gonna do something on It's a Pleasure to Serve and interview servers about their life a little bit and why they're serving. And sometimes they have college degrees, but yet they like to make the cash. It's interesting. I thought about the interview with the servers from the show Bob Fosse. I think it was Fosse. What show did he have on Broadway that lasted like 25, 30 years? Chorus Line. Now, they were called gypsies. They were dancers. And, they would do a show for coffee and donuts just to be involved, or maybe feed them for the day. So I happened to know and met one of the original cast. His name was William. It happened to be that a friend of mine's son, his mother used to babysit for her. And I think his name was Danny Williams, one of the original chorus lines. And Bob Fosse, what he did is he interviewed them, gypsies, and he interviewed them about their life, their story. And what he did, he didn't have anyone play their own life. He switched it up. Where if I was a gypsy and Alec was a gypsy, Alec would play me and I would play him. And that's how I got the idea about interviewing the servers. And And you know what? I'm starting to think about how Memphis has some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film location. I don't know why no one takes advantage of it. I walked from the downtown pizzeria one time through the alley to the other street, and awesome location. The old buildings, etc., etc. The underground entryways. So anyway, this is the third podcast, and as far as the title, Alec and I always discuss what the title would be, and I don't know, maybe we'll do whatever on this one. I want to thank you for listening, and let me hear from you. And I think that if you do watch it, if you push subscribe, then we'll know that you're watching it. It's like the Nielsen rating on your TV. No, but like I said, thanks for listening. Okay, so arrivederci. By the way, that means I'll see you. All right, till the next time.